Robert.
We're
Everybody else.
live. We're
We are
live.
live. Badass Brandon is back at you on Tuesday. Today we have the adorable and getting her groove on. We like that. Maria and she's just rebranding to, drumroll, the
Yay.
branding consultant. So we want to talk to you about that because we
Cool.
love branding. So I want to hear all about the rebrand and what really was behind that. But the topic for today that we're going to talk to Maria about, we're going to pick her brain and get all of her knowledge and nuggets. We're not going to let her hold anything back about DIY design. So I know a lot of you out there are creating your own images and you're putting your brands together. So
Or not.
yeah, or you're Lou and you just do whatever the hell you want. You're just haphazard shit. And you never listen to those of us like me that strong arm you.
I will. I promise.
Someday you will.
Eventually.
We will
And
be
I
here
saw
to see
her in
it.
Atlanta a couple days ago at NAMM.
You?
So yeah, we got to meet.
Nice.
Mhm.
And see, I haven't met anyone. We get to meet all of you guys. I just have to deal with the virtual. I know. In my cave. I don't leave my cave, so it's not really shocking that I don't know anyone anymore. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Maria.
I have been designing for about a total of 10 years now, but my background is probably not what you would think it was. I actually have zero graphic design training whatsoever. My background.
So what is it in?
Illustration and toy design, believe it or not. I was in the toy industry for about 5 years, and that's actually what my degree is in. I have a bachelor's in toy design.
That's
I
really
didn't even know you could get that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Awesome.
When I graduated, there were only 2 schools in the country that offered that as a program. I think there might be more now, but yeah, it was a
That's pretty cool.
wow.
Did you used to go to Toy Fair?
I did used to go to Toy Fair.
Me
Have
too.
you gone there?
Many times. Yep. Because I worked for a kids' entertainment company in LA for a while.
No kidding.
Yep. You know the Power Rangers? I was the Blue Ranger. No, I was the marketing guy.
You were.
That's awesome.
That's his alter ego.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. All right. So I know you have no graphic design, but that's not really what that I love that because that's really what DIY designers are coming, right? They don't have the college degree, they don't have the knowledge. I want to talk today about, breaking design down in a way that the non-designer can understand, right? I mean, so that they can go and they can get things done, right? People want, even something simple as like their Facebook cover, or a blab post, they want to start doing blabs or periscopes and they want an image to promote that. You don't need to recreate the wheel or put some crapola out there, right? So I want to pick your brain on, first and foremost, like, let's start with some basic design best practices. Like, what is it that they really need to, above all else, pay attention to in design?
Well, first of all, so here's a big mistake that a lot of DIY designers make. They go out there and they don't really know what they're allowed to use and what they're not allowed to use. Like, one of my favorite tools is actually Canva. And I mean, that's cool. You hear that everywhere.
Free.
Right? Yep. But it's easy to go wrong with that because Canva has a one-time use license. So even if you're paying for the work, there's all these limitations that people are not aware of on the artwork, like reproduction limitations, and you can only use it in one piece of art. So the best thing that you can do is just get your own stuff. Like, get a decent camera. It doesn't have to be the best camera, but one that I want to recommend is the Canon T3i. It's like $400 now. It's far from the latest model, and I take all my photos with it. I have a photo library, so everything that I take goes into a photo library. I get my own textures. I get my own backgrounds. I try to get pictures of friends, like candid shots or straight-on shots.
Yep.
And then I just go and plug that into Canva and I use it. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with Canva as long as you're not making that big mistake of repurposing their stuff, potentially getting yourself in trouble.
Well, and from a brand standpoint, I see a lot of the can designs that they have, and nothing looks individual. I've seen that little swirly line that it's one of their most popular templates, and everybody uses it. And it's like, that's not helping your brand because that's not authentic to your brand, right? I mean, it's not signature, it's canned.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned things that it's too easy to get individuality these days. Like I see the wall behind you, you could take a close up of the wall and have that texture. The other thing I don't think that people just starting out on the DIY side get that there are secondary elements, right? So like a background image, you don't need to go pay a couple bucks for a high res stock photography, right? And you don't have to use canned stock photos that everybody's using in the big rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just use something like you said, get the iPhone out and click a picture of the friggin' sky and use that in the background. Who cares what you're really talking about, right?
And the other thing is that you have to remember that all these images and these designs that come in Canva, they're standalone images. So it's really hard to create a brand from something that's a single image. So you have this Facebook cover, and that's great and well, but then you have to create a Pinterest cover that matches that in some way. And it's really hard to do that when you're sourcing your stuff from other people.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could take a picture of the sky and we use that picture and we crop it in different ways, and that could be your standard background that people can get familiar with.
Yep. And talk a little bit about how to make those, because I know a lot of people, okay, they snap a picture of the sky. How do they make that their own, right? There's so many ways with filters and overlays and stuff. So talk about how to make something that simple your own. So it's not canned. So it's not a one-off that you can really use across your whole brand.
Well, anything like Canva and what's the other one, iPicky and PicMonkey, all those things have filters that you can use. And the other mistake that I want to talk about that people make is using all these different filters all across the board. They're trying to just mimic what someone else is doing. But the best thing you could do is really ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to convey? What is my message? And use the appropriate filters and use them consistently. Because this is the problem that so many people have with branding. They forget that it's all about getting your customer, getting your client base to know you and to get familiar with you. So the biggest thing that you can really do with those filters is just use them consistently. And don't make anything gaudy. Don't make it gaudy. Don't just overdo it and overlay and overstate it.
Yeah. So that doesn't look like anything out there, because there's a reason it doesn't look anything like anything out there, right? Because it's terrible.
Yeah. And there's so much generic stuff out there. I mean, you're just going to look like everybody else. If you use that, pardon my French, that goddamn picture of the lady with the sunset going like this. How many times have you seen that triumph photo? It's like, for God's sakes. Maria, did you meet Brian G. Johnson when you were at NAMS with us?
Yeah, I've known Brian for a while.
He's great. I mean, if you look at his stuff, Brian G. Johnson, it's really fun. It's individual. He's got pictures of himself, doing this and that. I mean, it's always, the minute you're on the site, it's him.
Yeah, and that's what you want from your brand, right? Whether we're talking visuals or any part of your brand, is that you want it to be authentic to you, right? And then that's half, and as a DIYer, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, but a lot of times I feel like sometimes the DIYer thinks that gives them license to take some shortcuts. Like it's almost like it's an excuse, right? And doing it yourself just means doing it yourself. It doesn't mean cutting corners. It doesn't mean that, well, you don't need to really pick a font theme. You can use anything you want because you don't have the design skills to pick typography. Like,
there are just way too many accessible tools out there for people to make.
Right?
Yeah, it's not a badge of honor. And just because you can use Canva for free doesn't make you a designer by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's the other, that's the side rant, is that I always say it doesn't really matter the tool, because the tool isn't what makes you the designer, right? It's understanding the fundamentals of design and understanding, most importantly, your brand. Because if you really set up your brand style guide and you really create your signature style, you don't need to rethink any of this shit when it comes time to create your images, right? So your cover, like you said, you already have the background image, whether that's a photo you took or a texture or something like that. You've already got your filters that you run every image through. You've already got your color palette and your font theme. So really the upfront work is what is going to save you as a DIYer, and a lot of times that might take you a little bit longer, at the beginning, at the development stage, but down the road, it cuts so much time off because you're not recreating the wheel, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that people get so fixated on is getting that finished, clean, beautiful looking image, and they forget that there's a whole giant piece of groundwork, a foundation that they have to lay before they get into any of that. They don't know. A lot of these DIYers have no idea what a style guide is. They don't know that you need to pick your color palette before you even start thinking about your logo, because your logo needs to stay consistent with everything. You have to think it through to the end. Okay, I'm going to put my colors to Facebook. Now when I'm designing my logo is when I need to think about that stuff, because I need to incorporate those eventual colors in my logo.
Yep, preaching girl. That is like one of my biggest rants.
Mm-hmm. So what are the mistakes, like Dre usually likes to ask the most common mistakes that folks make when they are delving into this stuff?
Well, the one, like I said, is just not thinking things through clearly and not getting a clear concept when they first get started. I have a little formula that I kind of developed, and I just flushed it out for you guys, even though I always kind of follow it. So the way that I look at the starting concept, this is like ground zero. When I start working on a logo or a branding design, I think of 30% is research. So 30% is something that your successful competition has done. And the keyword here is successful competition, because you want somebody that's actually connecting with the audience that you want to connect with. Mm-hmm. Then another 30% is based on the customer. So if you're making a logo for yourself, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I like? What are some of my favorite colors? It's okay to incorporate that. It doesn't have to be all about the customer, because your customer has chosen to work with you.
Yep.
You have to incorporate a little bit of yourself in that brand. Then about 20%, I would say, is the audience. You have to look at what the audience is looking at and what they're enjoying. And I only do that as a 20% because we've already looked at the successful competition. So they've already done the research for us. And as long as we look at what they're doing, we already kind of have a pretty good idea of what the audience likes. And then 20% is you. So that doesn't really apply. I mean, that applies if you're working with a client, because we've already talked about that 30% being the customer, but now it just makes it 50%. So if you're designing your own logo, your preferences should be about 50%.
Yeah,
so
I love that breakdown. Yeah, I think that's too many, especially. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's what I always kind of realized that I found myself doing whenever I get started. That's always how I broke it.
And I feel like a lot of times, we really speak to the solos on this show, and the small business owners, and I feel like a lot of times they create things in a silo. You know what I mean? There's no, like you said, there's no research done. There's no. It's so close, so near and dear to their heart that they get stuck, and they have no feedback from anybody else, and they're not in touch with what's already being done out there, what's already, exists. I mean, at this point, honestly, you can create a completely unique brand. I mean, I'm still of the, there can be 50 million brands and we can still create you a unique brand. But at the same time, everything's been done. So go out there, look for the inspiration, look for the things that can get your creative juices flowing, because it's all that individual formula of how you pair things, right? I mean, someone may have this color palette, but they don't use these decorative elements, they don't use this font, this type of typography, and that sort of thing. And that's what really makes it the signature and the unique. But I feel like too many times I like that research part of it, because you need to go out there. It is about you. You do have to infuse yourself, but you can't do everything in a silo and then wonder why it's not connecting out there. It does have to be, something that's visually appealing, that's going to connect with your audience and that sort of thing. Garrett has a good question. I want to hear your take on this, Maria. Do you buy into the psychology of color, or do you think it's bunk?
Bunk.
What's your take? Yeah, wait, we're not allowed to say it first. It's Maria's turn. Okay, go, Maria.
For me, it's not about the color. It's about the overall look. Because you can take a gray color and in one context, it's depressing and drab, and it makes you, kind of brings you down a little bit, brings your energy down. But in a totally different context, it can look corporate or clean or have this really great, energizing feel to it. So to some extent, yes, maybe as a standalone color, but I think the context is really what makes the color, or what really creates the color, the emotion of color.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Lou. I know you're chomping at the bit. So you say font?
No, I mean, I think it's just, you got to look at the big picture. I mean, the color and the font and the style, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, if you use Comic Sans with gray, it's a whole different story than,
If we use Comic Sans at all, we're going to punch you in the face.
Right. Don't even mention those two words in front of Dre, because that's like,
But I agree. I can't stand. I get so many people coming to me like, I use yellow because they say that represents this, and it's like horseshit. I can't stand how. I mean, I believe in the psychology of color, right? I mean, I believe that certain colors can evoke certain emotions and that sort of stuff. But I mean, you nailed it, Maria. It's context. Like, if you put green, that's like supposed to be like wealth and prosperity and these shit, and if you use it in a certain way, it can make you want to jump off a bridge. I mean, let's be honest. So Garrett, I think it's a unanimous, like, there's some validity in it, but that's a pretty around the board bunk. We're giving that a bunk. Yeah, exactly. No bueno on the color psychology. Make it your own. Like you said, a lot of people would say gray is so boring. It's like, I use gray and gold, and it's like, I know exactly why I use those colors. I know how to use those colors, and they are my two extremes, right? So it's all about, I think, purpose and use, and like Maria said, context at the end of the day. So I loved that question. Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah.
All right. So
sorry, I lost my earbuds, Dre, and and everybody was getting an echo because I forgot to mute myself.
Say,
so I got my backup head air traffic controller headphones.
I was going to say, you can be air traffic control for us. All right. So we talked about what the biggest mistakes that DIYers are making. So let's talk about some tools. Like I said, I believe that it's not about the tool, but let's talk about some cool free tools. I mean, mine is just, or in addition to just the image creation, right? Because we've got Canva and PicMonkey. We always hear about those. What are other cool tools that, whether it's infographics, videos, or stuff like that, what other cool tools are really easy for the non-techie, non-designer to use?
Well, I've got this one that I picked up a little while ago, and it's really simple to use, and you don't need like Wi-Fi or anything. You don't even really need you don't need to plug it in. You could just, it's called a sketchbook. Okay, it's really weird. It's this brand new tool. Okay, and you could get this, like, it looks like a stylus, but it's called a pencil.
A pen.
Huh?
And I actually still draw with a pen. I think that a pencil is barbaric
to me. I don't understand.
Exactly. I love it. I love it.
But what's funny is that, and people would say, well, you're an illustrator. Of course, you can just sit down and sketch stuff out. But if you look at my drawings, like,
I have this.
This should not intimidate me. Like, I don't.
That's nice.
That's like pretty good, though. Come on, that's like really good.
Let me find another.
This is the extent of my artistic ability.
I was gonna say, and I can't even do a stick figure. I could not even do that square, to be honest. Like, here's the funny part is that when I was in school and I did have to draw, which was so fucking painful, I had to buy the sketchbook with the grid on it because I literally can't even draw a straight line. Like, no joke, cannot draw a straight line. Cannot, like, if you had to draw a line and then draw over the same line, I could not do it twice to save my life. Like,
this is nothing that I showed you was a straight line. This is like, this is
I know, but you're good.
Central.
We're gonna have to.
So how do you translate that from seriously from the page to online?
Believe it or not, I scan it in, and as messy and like almost indiscernible as it is, I can translate it into vector. I usually pull it right up into Illustrator, and I know a lot of people don't have Illustrator. It's a little more expensive. But if you have Photoshop, and I mean, if you're doing DIY work, you should definitely get at least Photoshop because it's $10 a month. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
And you could just trace it in Photoshop or just work over it, build some layers, and go from there. But the main part is that you have your concept down, and that really gets your brain moving. The way that your brain can't really process things by looking at a blinking screen and a blank canvas. For some reason, it's so much easier to lay it out on paper.
Well, and if you are the person that can lay it out better on paper and you don't have the online tools, there's Fiverr and there's other designers that you can hire to do exactly what you just said, to turn your drawings into vectors and create that. But I love that you kind of just threw down the gauntlet on that one. And so I would totally be the first one to push back on that. I'm like, paper gives me the ass sweats, but I totally get it. And a lot of people are scared of the mouse. Like the mouse like psychs them out. So you're right. If you're psyched out for the mouse, get a Post-it and a pencil and a barbaric pencil and get to work.
Get an eraser. That like takes the intimidation away, because you can erase it. You can make it go away. And I know you can hit Control Z too. So I guess that works.
Well, you have both sides of the fence here. You have the digital and the actual real deal drawer illustrator right there, because I can't draw for shit.
And, we kind of, make fun of Canva, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. And I don't know if this is just on the pro version, but they do have, once you can set up your brand there so that you can have your colors and your fonts and start to make things more consistent. So if you use your own custom designs in Canva that they give you, that can, I think, make it a little bit easier so that you don't stray too far from your brand.
And I'm all for, tell me what you think, Maria, but I'm all for Canva and PicMonkey and all those, like they're great. But if you're really going to be the one creating the visual content for your brand, I think Maria called it. You have to start investing in that. And Illustrator or Photoshop will let you do, I mean, if you start getting into lead pages and videos and all that stuff, it goes way beyond the scope of what Canva can do. And you need that ability to put your branding guidelines and shit into action. And there's so many ways to, to save a file as an Illustrator and take different aspects out and create templates, and things are so much easier. So, as you go, invest in your business. You need to on the design side too. And like she said, it's $10 a month. Okay, and you will at some point, if you're in business making money, you need to reinvest into your business. So, if DIY long-term is really your goal, you need to step it up on the tool side. What's your thoughts, Maria?
Absolutely. And in the live chat, I'm seeing a lot of people are sharing some great tools like Pixlr and GIMP. And those, they'll get a little finicky, and there are limitations. Like, for example, GIMP, I can't even get GIMP on my Mac because there's actually security features built in that prevent me from installing GIMP. And I think it's the same with Inkscape. Actually, just before I jumped on call with you guys, I was just reviewing my research and catching up, because every once in a while I try to sort of come down to base level with a lot of the people that I teach. Because I'm always using Adobe Suite, so I always try to kind of stay up on what's out there that's free and that's accessible to other people that don't want to spend thousands of dollars on Adobe Suite. And I actually found something called Affinity Designer, and it looks pretty good. The platform is for Mac, unfortunately, so I'm sorry for those of you who are using PC, but maybe on PC you can get GIMP. And it's supposed to be free. It's in beta right now, and it's actually looking pretty good from what I can see. The capability is pretty impressive, and it works with AI files, which are made in Illustrator and can.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I'll have to check that one out too.
Yeah.
So that's called. What is that called? Affinity
Designer.
Thanks. So if somebody wants to do stuff by themselves, but they want a good professional foundation or a good start, could they go to like either of you guys and set up a style guide and kind of pick out their fonts and colors and that kind of stuff, and then give them the tools so that they can go do the rest?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do all sorts of things. I do rebranding, and I'll pick it up from where people kind of started, and now they're stuck because it wasn't in Vector and they didn't start it off on the right foot. Yeah. And I'll pick up from that, and I could do it vice versa just as easily. I could start them off on the right foot, and then they could, get involved themselves.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, be sure to share your link in the comments so that folks know where to find you as we come towards the end here. Any other questions for our branding and design geniuses here? I did not inherit any of my dad's Emmy for design, by the way, which I obviously inherited many of his design skills. So,
sure.
That's not a design skill. That's a drawing skill. It's different.
That's true. Okay.
And I have to emphasize that, because a lot of people that think they can't design because they can't draw, not true.
Right. Exactly. Good point.
I literally cannot draw, and people are like shocked, like, how in the world could you be a designer? Because you do not need to fucking draw to be a designer. Like, newsflash. I don't have a degree and I can't design, so How do you like them apples? But I love, go find Maria. She is fantastic. Oh, and real quick before you leave, what made you rebrand? Because you were the good design and now you're the branding consultant. Do you just want to focus more on the branding side, or talk just really quick about your rebrand?
I think people are starting to understand the necessity of branding more so than graphic design, because graphic design is so broad. And a lot of the stuff, I would say 99% of all the stuff that was coming to me as graphic work was branding anyway. Yep. So that's why I rebranded. I think it's just a term that people are getting more familiar with now as something that they actually need for their business. It used to be, I think, kind of the superfluous thing that you could spend a few bucks on. But now I think it's not becoming so much of an option. It's something that you really have to do to represent your business, because so much of our business is online.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
And I was going to ask, because people do kind of lump all that stuff together. It's like, how do you define the difference between, a designer and a brand person, or somebody goes to somebody just for graphics, that you almost have to take a step back and say, whoa, you're not ready for graphics. We got to build your brand first.
Well, I think a lot of times there's a lot of crossover, because in order to build the brand, I don't think you necessarily have to be a graphic designer, but you have to at least be working with a graphic designer, because your brand is, the way that I look at it is, it's the face of your business online. It's what people see when they can't speak to you face to face. They can't see you smiling or your reaction or your gestures. So that's really what represents you, and it's very visual. So you have to kind of have a visual understanding of it.
Absolutely.
Good answer. What do you say, Dre?
I agree. I think there are a lot of really talented designers, graphic designers out there that do not understand branding. So I think more on the branding side, when you get someone that understands branding, they understand design, because they do go hand in hand. I don't necessarily think that's the case on the design side, because there's so many different facets of design and areas and industries of design that they don't necessarily all fall into branding. So it really depends, what kind of designer you're looking for. But a branding specialist or strategist, they understand the brand. They understand the meaning, the purpose, the use. They understand how to bring things together. They understand how to bring things out of you. It is a different art than straight up design. So, when you're looking for branding, don't look for the Fiverr designer. You know what I mean? You need somebody who understands branding, and that is a different beast. One last question before we go from Garrett. I love this one. What skill do you think is going to be more important for the future marketer, design skills or coding skills? What's your take on that, Maria?
That's a good question. But I would say design skills. I think coding is readily outsourced, whereas design, and I mean coding, I think it's a package. I think that it's harder to tell someone what to do than how to do it. For example, if I have this cup and I say I want my logo to look like this cup, that not anybody can say that, but anybody can say, okay, well, this is a cup and I know what needs to be done in order for me to code something that looks like this. So there's a very specific way you have to code something, but in order to decide what the outcome needs to look like, you need a little bit more finesse. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think design too. I think coding is way more easily outsourced, and I think it's the first thing you should outsource if it was coming down to those two. Not to mention, we've come leaps and bounds with our websites. I mean, what you can do with WordPress and Squarespace, that you never need to touch coding, or maybe just a tad bit of CSS. I think we're only going in that direction more. So I think coding is going to become less and less of a necessity, whereas design, that's not going to go anywhere. So that's our take, Garrett. But awesome. That is time for us. Time flew by. I want to thank you so much. We have to thank Luis, who connected us and connected me to Maria. And I can't wait to see you really grow the branding consultants, your new brand. And do not be a stranger. And one last time, tell people where they can find you and hunt you down.
Easy. thebrandingconsultant.com.
Great
Fantastic.
URL.
I know,
Awesome.
I do like that URL.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, thank you, lady. And we will be back next week with Penny Fox talking about Pinterest.
Nice.
Pinaholic shit. So same time, same place next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Maria. Bye-bye.
I can never get this thing to kick me off.